Hello, everyone. My name is Brent. I'm the host for Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. And today I have a huge announcement. Well, first of all, before the announcement comes, I'm actually going to be introducing myself as the host, but interviewing myself. So, yes, there'll be me and myself. So, kind of cloning myself, really. And I'm trying to, kind of be humorous at the beginning here. It's kind of funny, but what I have to mention in the broadcast today is not. I wish it wasn't so good. What I have to talk about, which is not. It's not a good thing. So as an overview, I'm going to dive right in here. When I first started Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies Twitter space back in this is this is going way back. January of 2022. I had a vision back in 2021 when I first kind of was brainstorming some ideas. And so what I decided to create a community and bringing people with lived experience together into a community. So I reached out to Neil, and I thought, well, this is my idea, and then Neil, you mentioned, well, this is your baby, right? This is your thing.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, like, can we do this? Like, how do we get this going? Like, I came up with the name, and as time went on, we as a group kind of gathered more and more together, and I brought on some very high ranked guests at the time, and over time there were some glitches here and there.
I was gonna stop you there.
Yeah,
Your first 10 or 11 guests. Here's 8 of your first 10 or 11 guests. Are you ready?
sure.
Your very first guest was Cheryl Hardcastle.
Hmm.
The next guest was Lee Gazan. Next one was Peter Julian. The next guest was Mike Maurice. The next guest was Shane Simpson. Next guest was Senator Kim Pate. And then you had Lolani Farha, the UN rapporteur.
Or yeah.
And then you had Benita Zarello. That was 8 of your first 11 guests. So that shows you the level of VIP people that were coming onto your show.
Hmm.
And when you called me and you kind of laid out your vision, and you already had an idea that these are the guests I want to line up. So as we kind of said on when we did our little preview ad, like, I had a very clear idea of what you wanted to do, and I knew that it was going to be a talk show based thing.
Hmm.
You know, and one of the, I guess I'm going to put a little metaphor in, like back when I was, say, 15, 16, 17, I didn't have a lot of money because my parents never really gave us an official weekly allowance or whatever. They would just give us, an occasional allowance every once in a while kind of thing. So I didn't
Hmm.
have a lot of extra money to like buy stuff, but if ever I did have some extra money, one of the things I would buy or I was excited about was vinyl records. So that goes
No.
to show, like, how far back we're going, right? And
No. Yeah.
and one of the things too is if you couldn't afford to buy a vinyl record, oftentimes you would borrow the record from a friend or something, right? And so in junior high and senior high, there was one girl that we exchanged a lot of vinyl records together. And, like, for example, like, one of her favorite artists, well, 2 of her favorite artists was like Bryan Adams and the Cars, and I really liked them too. But between us, we didn't have all the records, so we would swap records back and forth. And I mean, I really liked her. I really respected her. And my metaphor is going somewhere. But what I was gonna say is, like, you know, it's one thing for me to go out and buy a record. Like I was very protective of my own stuff. Like I didn't want to scratch my records if I bought my own stuff. Like I was very protective of my stuff, right? But as much as I was protective of my own stuff, I was even more protective of, somebody else giving me something that was valuable, right? So like, I didn't want to disappoint this girl that was giving me record. I was like, I have to protect these with my life, I'm very serious about it, right? And so this is the metaphor I'm creating, is like when you came to me with the show idea, like from my perspective, I was guarding it with my life. I knew it was your passion, but it was important for me to like really guard it. And so that was my like number one priority. And I know for you, maybe your number one priority was to represent the disabled community and really reach out to that and really build a family. And I mean, all that's really important. But like, I never lost sight of the fact of just you. Like I was protecting you. I was protecting your show because I knew how valuable it was. Just like those vinyl records they're not mine. Like this show is your kind of like metaphor wise, this show is your vinyl records, right? And I didn't want to scratch your vinyl record. Like I wanted to protect it. So that was my rationale. Is like, I want to really protect the show. I want to really protect Brent. I want to really protect Sonia, like the whole thing, right? That was my like laser focus of the whole thing. And your laser focus was a little bit different, of like, you wanted to protect the disabled community and like really foster that, which is always a good thing. But that's where our tacks were a little bit different, is that I was really focused on protecting you and the show, and you were more interested in like cultivating this whole family dynamic, so that we kind of approached it a little bit different. I just wanted to like mention that, to make that clear, that I was approaching it one way and you were kind of approaching it like really kind of cultivating the disabled community.
Really focused, really focused on the disability community. But at the same time, I want to protect that community that I've been building up over that time. So that's where we kind of we really gauged on the concept of the show, and over time we called it the show. And I had a vision way back. I know when I approached you, in the beginning, before we launched the Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies, I remember mentioning that eventually, and it wasn't meant to, or it was going to happen that quick, was eventually I said, well, eventually I'd like to do a podcast. I would like to make it into the show. And over time, there was people down the road within the disability community saying, well, it will never be a show, a talk show. Like it would just never happen. And in my mind was, yes, it will happen. It was just a matter of time when it will happen. And that's kind of where we are now, is we're now in the podcast. We're now the show. And it was the show on Twitter Space, folks. And that's kind of where things changed. And so this is the part of the segment now that I'm going to explain to everyone the reasons why the show changed. Okay. So this is very difficult for me to reveal to everybody, and I'm going to do the best I can to explain it. I'm not going to dive right into deep down of all the details, right? I'm going to give an overview here. So technically, because it was a lot of technical problems. So this is one of these Breaking with Brent segments. I mean, part A, technically, yes, there was technical glitches, but that wasn't the real reason. That was the reason, but that wasn't the underlying reason. So
that was one of the reasons, but it wasn't. It wasn't the major reason.
Yeah, and a lot of people kept saying, "Oh, okay, so it's technical," and that was what I wanted people to see. I was coping with issues in my life regarding the community that I had brought together, and there was some individuals that I didn't even know who they were. And I want to make this very, very clear to everybody. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying he said, she said, because the calls, I was getting phone calls, and I don't even know who they were. It got to a point where it escalated into spring of 2022, right around the time that I actually opened up open mic. It was open mic sessions. I started opening them up longer. And personally, I do take the blame for long sessions. Everyone's like, yay, this is great.
Birdie would say, don't say blame, say ownership. That you take ownership of
yes,
it.
I will change that, Birdie, because you'll be watching this right now, probably, or you'll watch it later. I take full ownership of this. I had opened up open mics where they were short, and then the demand became greater, that people wanted a community to come to, and I get that. I totally understand that, and I love that too. And it became greater time. A lot more of my personal home time was affected. My roommates, I didn't realize it was actually affecting my roommate a lot, where it would be a time where I would have a co-host. They would run it. I would do my normal routines, household, right? Chores, right? I would do dishes.
Well, particularly in the summer, right? I think that was when, I mean, of course, in the summer, everybody's wanting to get outside more and do more things.
Yeah.
And so you had a few people that you really trusted at that time. So you thought, no big deal. I'll just turn the hosting duties over to a few people that I trust. And
I would, I'd have dinner and we'd go wash dishes, go for a walk, and my roommate and I would go for a walk. My roommate has diabetes, so has to eat the right things, has to move around too, to keep numbers regulated, sugar level numbers regulated. It got to a point where I said, just give me a little while. And the open mic became later and later. So my neighbors were saying, like, it was some yelling matches were happening here and there. And I didn't even know what was happening because it was all under control. I'd come back. And that's not what my disability community was meant to be. It was meant to be a place that people could come to share ideas, thoughts of what are they going through, lived experience. And I'm not doing blame game of saying that people need to be kind of structured right to what the theme of what it's all about. But it was all about lived experience, right? But there was times where things were right off the rail.
Yeah.
I would get messages, Neil, and everybody. I would get messages from people saying, Brent, get control of this space. You're now losing control of your space. Like, I don't think you know what you're doing. And the messages started combining. They started going into my direct messages, notifications. Doesn't matter where I looked. I'd be doing the show and not even really looking at all my messages all the time because I'd be focused on what was going on. Mm-hmm. And messages were saying, if you don't deal with this, like maybe you're incompetent. Maybe I should run it myself. Mm-hmm. And it got to a point where I said, if that's what you want to do, you can open up your own space. And then there was times where I would actually say, okay, the demand was becoming so great that maybe people should maybe open up their own space because I can only do this so much. And then I reached out to Neil. I said, hey, maybe we should do another open mic. And it was I know, and honestly, like, I know, Neil, you mentioned to me, like, no, Brent, like this is the space, like, the time you needed allotted. Yeah. Maybe you're putting too much time into these spaces. Yeah. Lower it down. And became a time where I would have guests on the show, and the open mic would kind of blend in with the guests. That was a big no-no, and I take full ownership on that because I shouldn't have done it because I figured maybe just a little discussion after the guest, it blended right in there. Yeah. Then eventually what we did was we had the guest and then we had the open mic and we broke it apart. There was times where I would have an open mic and it was feedback of what the people thought of the guest. Mm-hmm. Now the guest would come on. It was
negative feedback too.
Negative, and I had, and I'm not saying which guests because that's not as like he said, she said. Mm. There was a guest, a few of them and had joined on my open mic and were beyond embarrassed. They just said, I won't be ever coming back ever again. And it really put a tear in my eye because it's something that I built up. And I'm moving forward. Things after I had done the open mic, and I noticed after I was doing open mics a lot, I was receiving calls in the spring of 2022. Now, a lot of people didn't even know. I know yourself, Neil, you didn't even know all of it. Bertie didn't even know of it. Sonia didn't even know all of it. And
well, one of the things, I'm just going to interject a little bit. One of the things is, that I didn't have a lot of time to go to the open mics because, I mean, we would do your shows and I would, frequently attend those. But I'm a parent and I'm a husband and so my day is full already. And when you were done with the show, I was re-recording the segments because back then, for the first few months at least, I had to re-record the stuff using my snowball mic because we had no like app to rip the audio easily. That came after Bertie came on the scene. We found an app to do that, so it saved me a lot of time. But in the early days, in the first few months, I was basically re-recording all of your segment. Every time you did a show, I would re-record it using my snowball mic. So that would take me at least an hour, if not 2 hours, to do the re-record. And then I would spend another 2 hours at least editing it down to 15 minutes. Like I would really take my time and really kind of encapsulate the best 15 minutes of the show, right? And so it was a lot of time and effort. And so I thought, well, I have to cut back my time somewhere. And so I just never went on, very rarely, I should say. I just very rarely went on the open mics because I just didn't have the time. So that's kind of why I didn't really know what was going on. And so it wasn't until Bertie came on the scene where she was like kind of red flagging some stuff that was going on. And then we started sharing like, okay, this is going on. This is serious. We need to put a stop to this.
There was, and that was a lot around the same time that things were escalating. And I'm glad you mentioned about, time with, normal things, like life activities in the household. And it came down to the time where there were people that were telling me, well, that's why your roommate's there. Don't worry about that. She can go and do all this. Well, no, like I have responsibilities too.
Yeah.
And that's why I had people running my, my open mics, right? Yeah. And then being told, well, no, you need to stay here. Well, it became a conflict, right? It really created a lot of problems for a while. Everything's fine, right? But it was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, saying, well, do I service the community and make longer open mics? Where some of them were up to 7-8 hours. There was one, I think it was the marathon one, was just over 8 hours long.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was way too long.
And that was where I was really telling you to respect yourself, respect your time, and respect Sonia, because it's a lot for Sonia too. And
well, yeah. It was echoing throughout the household too, especially when there was yelling matches, and these walls are very hollow, so it echoed all the way to some of the other tenants in the building.
And that goes back to my first metaphor again. This is why I mentioned the thing about the records, is because it's an important metaphor, because this is where like I respected your show, and I think some people that were just stirring up shit. There was maybe 3 or 4, like a small handful. So I'll say 3 or 4 people that really did not respect your show and started to just stir up shit. And, that was I saw that as a pretty serious problem, because here I am like trying to respect your show and look after your records, like your vinyl records idea. Yeah. And there was some people that didn't
care about your vinyl records. They didn't care if they scratched it up. They're like, screw it, I don't care. And and it's just unfortunate, that your show became tainted because of like we've used the word like there was like 3 or 4 bad actors that really kind of torpedoed the show and got it off the rails. 95% of the people that were on your show, 95% of the people that were part of the Twitter Spaces were great.
They were wonderful.
It was a really small handful, like I said, 3 or 4 people that were the rotten apples, the bad actors that really had a big hand in derailing your show.
I would get notifications when I would have open mic on, and even when there was some guests on, when I had every so often. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to all my messages when I'd have guests on because my number one focus is the guest. Like the guest is and always has been the number one of my focus of having great guests on. And unfortunately, I would have messages coming in saying like this is. They were over-speaking guests here and there, and the guests would now lose track of where they were. I would have to now remind the guests, okay, this is where you were, and start again, right? And so that was one of those. I think there was a lot of glitches that were happening there, and that's why.
Let me interrupt you here, Brent, because I just got an eye on the chat, and Karima has just entered the chat, so that's kind of cool. And she says it takes a lot of courage to try and create something and disheartening to have that co-opted. And then she says, I appreciate you having me on and encourage you to persevere.
So I guess what my next part is, people have been waiting to hear the reveal part. And, I'll get to about the, these notifications. Like people would say like, it was becoming toxic. They couldn't come back. And, what do you say? That's their decision if they want to come back or not. And I don't create a toxic environment. Then, I respect myself better than that. I was brought up to actually, do unto others as I want done unto me, right? Yeah. And that was my motto going forward all along is create a community just for people to come to. And I never, ever in my life want to, say I'm the king here because I know best. I know best for everybody. It wasn't that. It was bringing just people with lived experience together, and that's all I wanted. I took a lot of heat sometimes where they'd say, "Well, yeah, but you're here just to tell other disabled people how things need to go." No. It was all about taking my ear and listening to people and trying to be as neutral and as possible, and because there's people who always have views, this side or that side. I always just like listen. Yeah. Hey, you want a shoulder to lean on, an earful. And I always say to people sometimes, hey, like reach out to me. You want to talk? You have you're not feeling well. You want someone to talk to? My DMs are always open to people.
Well, and that. And again, I'm sorry for interrupting you, Brent, but I just wanted to make the point that one of the things I really appreciated about your show is that you and I and other people, but especially you because you're the host, you were always very good at kind of walking the line of having a balanced view of opinion. Like, so it wasn't always like a one-sided opinion. It was like, let's have a balanced view of, let's look at this side of the equation and then also look at the other side of the equation. Yeah. And you never were biased on one way or the other. And this is another metaphor that I can say is that's one of the things that my mom's dad, my granddad taught me is one of the games he would play with me is he would get into these philosophical arguments with me, but it was just for fun because he would start arguing one side, and then he would make me argue the other side, and then like halfway through, he would switch. So it's like then we would switch places, and then he would argue the other side, and I would argue, and
And so that kind of showed me that there's always two sides to everything, and you shouldn't always be focused on only arguing one side and then just throwing out the other side and ignoring it. You always got to be balanced of like, let's argue this side and then switch around and then look at the other side too. And I really think your show did a really good job of showing both sides of a situation or problem always.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and yeah, it's exactly it. Like when you mentioned about the one side versus the other side, yeah, like it's staying focused on listening to both sides and having the community having interaction, like the interacting of a debate or discussions on that. And there was times where people were sometimes over talking other people, and and I think it was sometimes glitches within Twitter space on that too, mic problems, this and that. But there was people that were still over talking, right?
Yeah.
And it became a theme of, and I don't think some people really meant to do that, but there was other times where there was guests that were feeling very uncomfortable with that too. There was other people within the disability community that felt uncomfortable about somebody constantly after saying like, please don't do that, don't, and they kept doing it. And that kind of leads into my next reveal to people. I would be getting messages, direct messages, because I would say, like to on my show, like on open mic, like, like send me a direct message. Let me know how you feel about how the open mic's going. Is there demand for, maybe we need to make it twice a week instead of once a week? And I would really emphasize that. And so somebody took me up on the offer. Obviously it was a bot or whoever, I don't know, Twitter account, and would send me messages. And I just kind of shrugged it off at first. I, whatever, right? I got better things to do with my time. I remember saying that. I got better things to do with my time. I've got a show to do. If you have a concern or a suggestion that you would like to see on open mic, or better ways of maybe doing things, or a guest to come on, a person told me to get a life. Okay, well, everyone has their own opinions, right? I mean, I already have a life, but I mean, what other, what other life do I want? Yeah. My own? Yeah. But then things escalated. I would be getting some other bad actors who taunted me, who kept sending me direct messages, told me that they were going to report my space to Twitter. I reached out to Twitter support, had a lengthy discussion with.
And you were vindicated right away, almost. By the way.
Yep. And
so they knew this person was completely false and baseless.
Yeah. So I reached out and I had a lengthy discussion with Twitter support. I said, knock yourself out. I remember saying that. I said, knock yourself out, right to Twitter support. You want to go ahead and listen to open mic sessions, 7-8 hour sessions, go ahead. Listen to all my guests. You might find it really entertaining. I know I do, because that's why I have the guests coming on, because it's all about our lived experience, and I take it forward and they take it up to Ottawa. Right? And they take our voices forward, and that's what it's about. So if you find anything in there that I've said wrong, derogatory, bring it to my attention, and I will take full ownership of that. Right? I guess they went and overviewed, and they said, you're running everything great. Like, this is the only Twitter space that's on here that, like, this is amazing of what you're doing. I said, I don't need brownie points. I said to Twitter support, I don't need brownie points. I don't need to be praised. I just want this person to stop. And that's what it was. And that's going forward, is that I want this to stop. And the person kept going, wouldn't leave it alone, kept going, and said that you're very rich, Brent. You got so much money that you're out in the town, you're just blowing, you're going and buying wine and beer and going out the town and buying gourmet food. I go, really? When did this happen? I mean, so that's just one example, okay? But I'm not going to say names, because that's not what it's all about. But I just want people to know that wasn't the end.
Yeah.
It actually escalated into I was getting phone calls. Now this is the part that got very scary for me, because it got really close to home. The person knew where my address was. The person knew my walking path that I would go, because I do like to walk. I love getting exercise. I love outdoors. The person knew my walking path. Now, the person also told me that to watch my back. And if I didn't believe them, they said that they would make sure that the show won't go on. And I said, "Who are you?" And don't worry about who I am. Just worry about who you are and what you're doing, because you're hurting the disabled community. And I said, "How am I hurting the disabled community?" I bring people together with lived experience and talk about how they're feeling, and talking to me, putting, my ear to them and listening. And they told me to watch my back if I know what's good for me. Okay, so that's a death threat, right? Yeah. I shrugged it off at first, and everybody. I got a call again. These numbers were showing up as unknown name, unknown number. I had no way of detecting it first. It happened 4 times to me, and after that, it stopped. I reported it. People were asking me, "Well, did you report this?" I reported it. They said if it continued, we will now investigate further into it. Right? They said maybe it was an isolated situation. I never know. Like, I don't know who the name of that person was. So that's the difference is that if I had known a little bit more detail about it, it was the authorities took that information. Fast forward, I had to change my phone number. So rather than, kind of looking at all the details of this information, the service provider investigated into it. So going forward, I don't know if it was related to anyone who was taunting me, sending me messages. I was getting harassed constantly, telling me that on Twitter, direct messages telling me that I need to wake the F up. I need to get a grip. It was all sorts of things going on. Like,
one of the things that has to be mentioned too is when the phone company did the investigation, they saw right away. They said this is harassment. Like,
yes,
like they just said for sure this is harassment, right? And
right away.
Right away they said, this is serious. This is harassment. You have a beef. They said to you, do you want to take this further? Do you want to, involve authorities or what have you? And I think just because you wanted to just be done with it and not inflame things, you said no. And, but this is where I have a real serious problem because, one of the women that was calling you, when I reached out to her and I said, you owe Brent an apology, she said, I don't owe Brent anything. Like, she was washing her hands of the whole thing. Like, she didn't take any responsibility, and she was just being completely oblivious to what harassment is. Because we should say, just to give a little bit of detail, you live in a very kind of old, I'm going to call it heritage condo, and
apartment.
And one of the features of your condo is that it has a very old school buzzer in it, and so anybody that buzzes, it comes through as a private number. Right, and that's just hard.
No caller ID.
No caller ID, and that's just hardwired into your building. And if they wanted to change it, it would cost like thousands of dollars. So of course your manager doesn't want to change it, right? And you went into detail to try to figure that out, and so when this woman called you and then you said, look at, you actually told her, you said, when you block your number, it comes across as, it gets spoofed as somebody that's coming to my door, and
you get a lot of Amazon deliveries. So
I get on and medical stuff for Sonia. She gets it for her diabetes.
So whenever you get the double ring or however it is, this you have to basically answer that because you don't know if it's the door or not, right?
Yeah.
And so you told this woman that, and I remember you kind of relayed the story to me, and she kind of laughed, right? She kind of giggled and says, "Oh, really?" Right? And you kind of said, "This is serious. Please don't do this again." And she continued doing it, right?
Yeah, and that's and then like it was at the time like the woman didn't know that I was being really harassed, and now people watching this segment are going to now know that I had death threats, I was being harassed, and her situation was, it just tipped it over the iceberg.
Yeah.
And that was the tipping point. And so I want to make it very clear that to the woman, if she figures out that that it was her, that it wasn't you were not responsible for what happened to me beforehand, like where I was getting harassed, the death threats and stuff. It was, I asked for a call to not be blocked because it wasn't blocked before. Like I had name programmed in there, and all of a sudden it started coming up as no caller ID. Well, I had no way of knowing. Well, I had at the time I actually had management in my building doing checking out every unit, and it would show up as no caller ID. I figured maybe it was a delivery coming in. Sometimes management does test the intercom out just to make sure that things are working okay. And I go, hello, and then I go about to hang up. No, it's me. Me who? And of course, the person didn't realize at the time that I was already in my mind kind of freaked out because like I would have unknown numbers calling me up randomly saying, watch your back, like stalking me, right? So of course I'm automatically going, okay, like I'm going to have to change my number, and it ended up being that way. So this is not all about on one person. The perpetrators who basically stalked me, and I'll basically make it cut and dry. They were stalking me, and it really freaked me out. They mentioned my roommate's name. I would see a vehicle parked on the side of the road, and as soon as I got closer, the vehicle pulled away. So that tells me that somebody is watching me. And why? Like, for what reason? Like, and it hasn't happened since. What was amazing after I made the announcement that I was actually going to be pulling the Twitter space off, all that ended. I stopped getting phone calls even before. Like it was my the taunting of the phone calls were into the summer, and then after the summer it stopped. But then it was in the back of my mind of that I was getting the other no caller ID continued, and it got to a point where it just pushed it right over the edge. I realized, everyone, that there was something that I needed to do. Was I needed to now move the Twitter space off of the platform as they knew it as the show, and I needed to bring it over and have it being broadcasted. When I'd have guests on. So I want to make sure everyone understands how this works, is that when there's a guest on, okay, when I'm doing the show, it's actually broadcasted onto YouTube. And it's always gone to YouTube from day one. It's always gone.
That's one thing we really have to emphasize, because I think
it's always gone to YouTube.
I think a lot of people, they associated your show always only with Twitter Space, and that was an important vehicle. But
the end result was YouTube.
Yeah, because I only missed when you came to me and you said, I want you to be the editor producer. Well, I only missed re-recording. It was your first show only, the first show you had with Cheryl Hardcastle. That was the only show. If you go back and look at the whole list of, and there's 125 or 126 recordings now that are just the Canadians with Disabilities and their allies, those segments. There's over 125 of those now, and so the only segment I missed about re-recording and posting on
on YouTube was the very first show that you had with Cheryl. That was the only one that was missed. I got every single other one, and I cut them all down. So to say that the show has only ever been on Twitter Space, it's not true, because basically right from the very beginning, except for the very first show, everything is on there.
It's always gone to YouTube, and so the beginning of the platform, I mean, it could be on Twitter, or it could be broadcasted a whole bunch of places. The end result's going to go to YouTube. And so when the guests were on, it would, the guests actually would come on to either Zoom or they'd come on to Skype, their preference, whichever of the two platforms that we indicated for the guest to come on to. And now it gets broadcasted onto YouTube. Now, when I do open mics, though, open mics are actually only on Zoom. Now, and they're not recorded. They're open mic sessions. They're not recorded sessions. Now, if a guest wants their session to be recorded, it does go to YouTube, which it still will anyway. Mm-hmm. But it can actually be a live broadcast where they can take questions from the audience. And so that's the difference of recorded or pre-recorded. It comes down to the guest. And people would say to me, no, you need to keep it on Twitter, Brent. You need to keep it here because this is where you built the community. Right. But now they're going to understand, after listening to this, the reasons why. I found that Twitter became very toxic for a lot of reasons. Yes, there was technical errors, technical glitches. Guests would be losing connection. They'd phone me up, help.
The technical thing was actually a true thing.
It
was a very true thing, but that's, we've only ever revealed the technical problems, but there, like you said, there was this issue of you being attacked regularly. I mean, you shared with me, a few of the DMs that you got, and like I said on the ad that we posted for the show, is that, I mean, you had guys that were basically straight up calling you an idiot, and I mean, that's just not productive. That's not nice. There's that golden rule, right? Your mom, or my mom always said, and everybody's mom on the face of the planet has always said, like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it, right? Just shut your mouth. And I mean, I've lived by that. I mean, that's something that my parents have always told me, is like, if you don't have anything nice to say about somebody, just don't say it, right? And here are these people just spouting venom at you and harassing you through DMs, calling you an idiot. And
they would go ahead and start, they would start blocking. Some people would start blocking me, and all because they, the narrative of it's not what they wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. And I was really quite shocked about it, because that's not what advocacy is all about, right? It's we're all going to have different viewpoints, for sure, right? There's always different viewpoints, but I'm sure like every advocate, whatever the topic is of advocacy, they're always going to have difference. I mean, look at some of the politicians; they advocate in different ways too, mm-hmm. and they all can work together. They've shown that in different ways. Yeah. Maybe not always. I mean, there are ones that should work a little bit harder. Yeah. But they all have certain. When I say that, work harder, meaning they could probably work together a lot more effectively. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many disagreements, but there are still little components of every little thing that people can glue all that together, and to come to the common end result of trying to make things better. And that's what I've always tried to do, is try to make things better, of creating a good environment. And I got a lot of pushback, and yes, rightfully so. Like, people can always have their opinions.
Yeah, and I'm just going to interrupt you a little bit, because Dan made a comment. He says, Brent's not an idiot. He says he likes eggnog too much, but he's not an idiot, with a little smiley face.
way to go, Dan. Yeah, give me 2 liters of that Breaking with Brent segment where I went to the store
with the rum. With the rum.
Eggnog. Yeah. They had oaknog. I'm going, I remember that one. I'm like, oh, no.
Well,
so I went on an adventure. Yeah.
And I'm glad you're talking about advocacy and how everybody has a different style. like,
yes.
you know, one of my big styles with advocating, and I mean, we've all been there. We've done mistakes. I mean, I've told the story lots of times where, you know, I've gotten mad. I was getting mad at Shane Simpson, our previous social development minister for many years that he was minister. I would, you know, send him kind of bad emails where I just got mad and pissed off. And then when I had a chance to actually meet him at this kind of, you know, a town hall kind of meeting thing, and, you know, I first approached him. I said, "You don't know who I am, but I'm Neil Matheson." And he kind of said, "I know who you are," and he kind of started running away from me. And then I said, well, no, wait a minute. And I had to kind of own up to that, because I said, you know, I just want you to know that, you know, I acknowledged the fact that maybe I was attacking sometimes and I shouldn't have. But I said, really, I was never attacking you, the person. I was only attacking the policy. And I think that's really important. That, I mean, people can get passionate about certain policies, but when you start targeting other people and saying this advocate sucks because you're not advocating in this way, or you're not advocating in this way. And one of the ways I like to advocate is I like to mix in a little bit of humor. And I know that was one of the big things for me, is when we launched the channel, you know, this is my channel. But the reason why we share it is because, you know, the editing, producing it's a lot of effort, right? And you can only do so much. So we agreed at the start that you would be the host and do all the hosting stuff, and I would do all the editing, producing, and we kind of share the channel, right? But one of the big things is we really wanted to invoke a lot of humor into it. Like, there's a lot of advocacy, but you want to have fun with it too, right?
You have to in life, because life is so, you know, there's so many things on the go, a lot of stresses in life, a lot of things on the go, as we know. And that's why I do the Breaking with Brent segments. You know, there's serious situations that I go through in life, or things that I come across. I go, hey, this would be interesting. And I put some humor. I try to put a little twist into it, and, every so often. And I love the snow episode that I do. I always go back.
That snow one is hilarious. Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
But you know, but getting back to advocacy, I'm glad you mentioned that, you know, because that's where I think a lot of issues were happening too, where you know, Brent won't have so and so on because from some other party. I did try to reach out to some of them. They just didn't want to respond back. You know, and it's not like the people will be listening to this now going, well, Brent didn't reach out to the Conservative Party because you know, we said it'd be great to have on. Actually, I did. There was, but unfortunately, nobody actually took the bite of wanting to come on the show. Well, I mean, no surprise.
And and to get back again to you know, humor, like, where some people were attacking you for it. I remember you showed me again one of the DMs, and this one guy said, like, what are you doing wasting your time talking about boobly bits? He said, like, kind of get your head out of your ass and do, like, proper advocating, you know? And that's somebody that totally missed the mark of what we're trying to do. I mean, yes, it's important to advocate, but it's important also to mix in the humor. And, you know, like, when I have my videos of gaming with my son, or the food reviews, or, you know, those types of things, it's mixing in, you know, I had one of my friends tell me it was kind of like those things are kind of like the commercials in between the actual good, you know, the good advocating stuff. It's like when you watch the Super Bowl, there's also the Super Bowl commercials, right? So that's the kind of way I envisioned, you know, all those funny videos is like, we're gonna have important advocacy, but we're also gonna just mix in the fun, and it's kind of you know, the day, those Breaking with Brent things are kind of a day in the life, and they're hilarious, right?
They are,
and they still are focused on really serious advocacy things,
But you also have to kind of have fun with it, right?
Well, yeah, it's exactly. That's why I love doing them, because it's about pointing the reality of what I go through, or different situations that I come across in the adventures of if it's either food banks, or it's about grocery prices, or if it's about transit. And that's another area of advocacy that I focus on a lot on, is about transit, about accessibility of not having the adequate transportation getting from one city to the other one. And so reading comments that I would get, and I'm glad you mentioned about that other individual, because then there was another comment that just recently, and I was like, seriously, like, yeah, it was, I can't recall, it was something about, yeah, like, that advocate, there was my name tagged with somebody else's name, and oh no, definitely not that advocate.
Yeah.
And
Brent is breaking everybody's hearts. This is the
yeah, that's right.
This is
And
the guy,
then
right?
yeah, and then of course, since people were started jumping in on it, which is good, right, to make a point. But then here's the thing, folks: the person goes ahead and then deletes their post.
Yeah.
But they're embarrassed because they got called out. Like,
Yeah.
all I want to do is advocate and bring people together. Now, if they're upset because I'm advocating in a way that you don't want me to advocate, well, I'm sorry that you have your way of advocating, and Joe Blow has their way of advocating, or John Doe or Jane Doe. I mean, everyone has their own way. Like, rather than so much, back and forth.
Yeah, and I really don't like people that feel emboldened behind the safety of their keyboards, where they can just say, tap, 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 I'm going to spew venom, like this, like all this BS, towards somebody because I'm behind the safety of my keyboard. I'm kind of impenetrable. I can say and do whatever. I really don't like that. And
I mean, some people get really, really hurt on the comments that come out. I mean, even Sonia had mentioned to me, I didn't even know what was going on. Right. That's how I felt so scared about having been personally attacked. And when they mentioned they would, saw me and her walking along, that's where it got too close, folks. It got too close to home, and it's got to stop. Yeah. Like, if you don't like the way a person advocates, then just, what, that's your thing, but don't bring it into my life, into my personal surroundings of bringing her into a situation, right? That's a no, and to me, that's a no. Like, that's no, like, personal attacks, no, it's got to stop like that way, because like, for my advocacy, I can't speak for other people, and I'm not going to speak for other people of what they're going through. There was recently on local news, a person had revealed what they go through and about harassment. My situation's not even
do you want to say the name of the person, because she is a public figure?
I can say her name. And when I say her name, I don't want my situation to be. It's not even in parallel with what a celebrity is going through. Not even close. But it is related to the one key word: harassment. Okay. So I follow the person. That first person follows me back. I highly respect that individual very much. And when I heard about what she has going through and what she is going through, it really put tears in my eye this morning, because I knew I was going to be doing this broadcast. I had butterflies in my tummy, you guys, because I knew I had to let everyone know what was going on. I was scared about saying anything. I was scared about coming out in public. I would do my shows and people would say, yeah, but you're always happy-go-lucky, Brent. Yeah, because the show goes on. What I went through was what I went through, and
I didn't sleep very well last night either. And
no, me neither.
I think it's because I was concerned about making sure that you got to say what you wanted to say, and I think you have, which is good.
I have said it, and but her name is Jody Vance. She's a journalist, and I highly respect Jody. And Jody, if you're watching this, thank you for your broadcast that you did on Global News this morning. I was watching it. and it echoed home to me about harassment, online harassment. My situation that I revealed today is not even in comparison to anything that you've gone through, the torment. I'm glad that the person that you revealed today, that things need to change, right? It really needs to change. The system, the criminal justice system needs to change to stop the individual from doing what they're doing. My situation didn't get to that point. If it would have continued, it was going to go down that way. The provider that I deal with, my cell phone, when they disconnected my phone number, and I'm not going to get into detail here because I don't want to be pointing fingers, they did reveal to me the person's name. Mm-hmm. And that was very quick. If they can do it that quick, they want me to, if I want to escalate things. And you know what, like, Neil, I'm glad you mentioned that earlier. Mm-hmm. I just let it go. I let it go because my point is that
because you're not a jerk, you know.
Well, yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
you could have been a jerk about it.
Yeah,
but you're the bigger man, and you walked away from it and said it's fine.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm the captain of the ship, Neil.
Yeah,
I'm the captain of.
I wanted to get to that, actually. I was gonna.
Yeah, that's why I was just mentioning I'm the captain here of the ship, right? And I steer the ship.
That's a good segue. So let's get into that segue.
Yes. Yeah.
It was December 2nd, 2022, and it was a very special episode. You had Cheryl Hardcastle, MP for the Ontario region. She was on as your 100th guest, and we were celebrating because not only was she your 100th guest, the 100th episode, but she was also your first guest way back in January of 2022. So it was very
awesome. It was so wonderful.
It was a nice little parallel there where she was your first guest, but also your 100th guest. So it was
I played a song for her too. I played Celebration.
Yeah,
and it was a great party. It was a great get together. Everyone was all riled up, really happy, and then
and it should have been a really kind of a very happy moment. And I was gonna say it's again I feel like I'm using a bunch of metaphors today, but I wanted to bring up the metaphor of it's like, you know, if on your wedding day, it's like for example, if the maid of honor showed up in a wedding dress, you know, to upstage the bride. Mm-hmm. And this is what this one woman did. She basically upstaged you and embarrassed you, publicly embarrassed you, went out of her way to do so, and, you know, said, there's no captain of the ship, Brent. Knowing full well, I mean, here's somebody that you really respected. You allowed her to host numerous episodes. You gave her a huge platform to share her ideas, like a massive platform. You gave her like a big voice on the show, and here she was like stabbing you in the back, publicly embarrassing you on a really momentous day, and saying, you know what, Brent, you're not important. I'm important. I'm going to speak, and I'm going to embarrass you. You're not the captain of the ship. And as soon as she, and I know we've talked off air about this, that as soon as she said that, you've admitted to me that you wanted to just like say the F-bomb to her. Like you just wanted to like say the F-bomb to her, right? But you, again, because you're the bigger man, and you're a respectful person, you restrained yourself and said, I'm not going to do that. But basically what she did, she's basically giving you the double-fisted middle finger and saying, you know, like, screw you, Brent, you're not the captain of the ship. And as soon as she said those words, and she was giving a lot of context, and we have to say too that she kind of hinted at those comments, or she telegraphed those comments maybe a month earlier too. She kept kind of telegraphing that there's no captain of the ship, there's no captain of the ship, and then
there's no direction. There was no direction.
There's no direction, and then she waited till that really special show of the 100th guest.
Yeah,
and she just kind of dropped the bomb, and right when she said it, I knew, okay, your show is over. You know, she basically killed off your show. You know, that was the kill shot, and I knew like right then, you've lost the show. You've it's kind of that mutiny, like it's like a hostile takeover, and I knew right then, it's like, okay, you don't have the show on Twitter Spaces anymore. We've got to move off the platform and find another platform. And luckily, it was a smooth transition because, like we've said, the show has always been on YouTube. So we just kind of did a soft relaunch and just officially moved everything on YouTube and just kind of threw away all of what was Twitter Spaces.
And when that happened, I had given the little hints along the way with my Breaking with Brent segments. I did a grocery scene episode, and I was standing there and I said, stay tuned in the new year because there's new changes that are going to be happening regarding Twitter Space. And people are like, whoa. Some people are like, whoa, where did this come out of? Again, you need to subscribe. You need to subscribe to Neil's YouTube channel. Watch when you see the Breaking with Brent segments out. You know, they're like, oh, that's great. You didn't probably listen to the whole segment, right? Maybe because there was parts in there that actually did say that there was going to be changes coming, and I kept hinting along the way after that happened, and without me coming out and saying, yeah, we're going to be dropping the F-bomb here, like. We're moving it off there immediately. It's going there. No, we're going to be launching it out in the new year. And I had made that decision at that time. I was pondering it, thinking, well, maybe I can somehow sabotage the one segment. Like, hey, I can recap the whole thing again, and and going, well, like, what went wrong? What when I say to myself, sabotage in my mind, I'm going, Brent, you sabotaged this, and I kept blaming myself. I kept saying, I did this. No, I didn't do this. It was the 100th episode, and it stung so bad.
Yeah, it was your wedding day. It was your wedding day, and
that I was so excited having the guest on. And when I made these announcements, I was trying to think, well, is there a way that I can somehow keep things going? And I realized, no. It was, things had built up to a point where it became so toxic for me, being attacked behind the scenes, and nobody knew it. Sonia was hurt. She says, you didn't tell me. I didn't tell her because I didn't want to hurt her. I wanted to protect her because I knew that I was going to deal with the individuals. And so it's all fine. Everyone, like, everything's fine now. Like, with Sonia's fine, I'm fine. Like, moving forward, like, everything's fine because I've now launched everything under a new area. I on the new platform. Well, I mean, YouTube's always been there, but under the engine, right? So
we just left Twitter Spaces behind. That's the only thing we've done, really.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still on Twitter. I mean, yes, but Twitter Space is gone. I had to change my number. It's been, to be honest, it's been hell. Revenue Canada, trying to get into their system. Guess what? They want to send a verification code. What number? My old number. Yeah. I couldn't get through. I had to talk to somebody. Then I had to, the whole 50 questions here to verify who I am. And why did you change it? I had to go to the government, change it. I mean, and I'm still changing it. I'm still handing my number out, but I'm being very selective of where I'm handing it out to. I'm being very cautious. Yeah. Do I trust people? Yes, I do trust people. And I think part of me too is part of my gullibility is that sometimes I trust people way too much. And that's one of my traits, unfortunately. I guess when I say unfortunately, it's not that I can do about it. I inherited a lot of things that people don't know what happened many years ago to me. I was jumped. I was attacked.
I know you've shared that with me too, actually.
Yeah. And I came back from a work shift at a place I worked at many years ago. And since then, I've always been very careful looking around me. And when this happened, when somebody phoned me and said, watch your back, it triggered me. It gave me PTSD. It brought it back again. It's like, gee, Brent, you get to relive this again. How fun. Yeah. No, no fun. So to my harasser, to whoever phoned me and has been harassing me, stop. Like, I put a stop to you. Stop harassing other people. Whoever you are, I advise you, don't not do that. Stop. Look at yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. You could probably find something better to do with your time and your energy. Maybe you could be, I don't know, maybe, hey, be a comedian. Go out there and maybe because you love to harass people, maybe change that into energy of being some kind of comedian, or maybe be, I don't know, be a better person.
Yeah, just don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk, okay? Because you really create a lot of stress and anxiety in my life. I don't need the baggage. Yeah.
And this is where I just wish people would come forward and actually apologize, like with a sincere apology. And that's the one thing.
It's not hard. It's not hard.
And that's the one thing that still bugs me is because, again, I've reached out to this one woman a couple of times, and she just point blank says, I owe Brent nothing. And I'm like, are you kidding? She's like, it's not my fault that Brent changed his number. Like, what have I got to do with that? And I mean, yes, she wasn't like 100% responsible because there was other people involved that she may or may not have known about.
But it was a tipping point. Yeah, it was she just tipped over the scale.
But she was responsible. Like she was. She did play a part in it, and for her to say that she actually said again, like, kind of Brent's stupid for having to change his number. He shouldn't have had to change his number. Like, why didn't he just come to me? And that's another thing too, is like, you did come to her and you said, can you please stop blocking your number?
Yeah. Why are you blocking your number? She says, because I did.
And as soon as you let her know that it was triggering the front door, she laughed it off, and then she kept doing it.
Yeah, she's like, well, no, it's me. I go, well, I didn't even know who's at the front door. And sad part is.
And so is this somebody that is loving and, somebody that is safe and somebody that is private? Those are three key words that she was using in Twitter Spaces that she was launching. She was saying, I'm launching a safe, private space, a safe, private, and loving space. And what she did was not safe. It was not private. It was not loving. So at least own up to your, she should at least own up to her part in the damage she caused you. Yes, it wasn't only her. There was, like we said, there was 3 or 4 bad actors, but she was one of them. And and again, she was somebody that you trusted. She was somebody that you trusted with hosting the show a lot. We both valued her a lot. She's a smart gal. I'm not going to disparage her because she's a very smart gal, but because she's so smart, she should be able to recognize what is harassment and what is kind of crossing the line. And she just kind of washing her hands of everything and saying it's not my fault, but it was her fault. She did play a part in it.
Because there was times where my phone would ring out of the blue, and I understand that people want to call up sometimes randomly, and then I have no problem people calling up, but blocking a number and then calling me up not knowing who it is, and then saying why are you changing your platform away? You're making a stupid decision. You're going to throw away all your followers. You're throwing everything out that you built up, Brent. Why are you doing this? Like, why? Is it somebody who's influenced you to make that decision? I go, no, it's my decision. Well, maybe it's your editor, your producer who's told you. No, this was my decision. Nobody decided. Like I said, Neil didn't decide. Sonia didn't decide. Nobody decided. It was.
We can say that nobody decided, but in a sense, the decision was made when the kill shot happened, right?
Yeah.
You were basically forced off the show as soon as like the last kind of straw that broke the camel's back was there is no Captain Brent, and like we said, that was the moment that I knew that your show was officially dead, and there was no coming back from it. We had to walk away. So for, anybody to say that, that it was your decision or it was my decision, actually was the decision of your harassers that were the ones that were forcing you off your platform and saying, we don't respect your show. We don't respect your records. We're going to scratch your records up, like my metaphor that I said earlier in the show. And there was a complete lack of respect for you as a person, for your show. And that's where I have a real problem. It's like, own up to the fact that,
yeah, that's kind of where I saw it too. Was it's like people will make mistakes in life, right? They need to, if they make mistakes in life, they have to find out the mistakes that they've made in life. That's just part of the learning process. And with somebody saying, oh, well, you can't throw it away. You can't get rid of Twitter space because that's what you've built up. Okay, well, I've decided this is what I'm doing. I'm sorry that anyone that misses it. Yes, there are times that I do. And I'll be honest, there are times that I think back, yeah, I miss my Twitter space show.
It was cool because everybody was involved. Everybody could talk. Yeah. And the first 3 months or so, everybody was being super respectful.
It was wonderful. It ran smoothly. I was like, yay! I'm gonna program this in. I'm gonna send the broadcast information out, and we post out the link. Up it went, and I was like, yay! Looking forward to it. It got to a point where further down the line where I wasn't looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking, well, with the guests coming on, I always looked forward to it. Okay. So I'm going to clarify that. I always look forward to the guests coming on because I was the one who reached out to the guests to bring them on to the show. And they're like, yeah, I'd love to come on. And it got to times where they started getting bad mouth.
And again, we really have to stress that it like 95% at least of the people that were on your show as listeners, as participants of part of the Q&A, it's a wonderful community. Like, so many people embraced you, embraced the show. We're only talking about maybe 3 or 4 bad actors that really played the biggest part in derailing your show.
Yeah, and it's very unfortunate that it had to be that way. But moving forward, I really encourage people to join in when I have the guest coming on, and it's broadcast onto YouTube. The majority of the time so far, it's been live onto YouTube. So you send your comments in on the bottom, right, and send them in. I know that it's not the same way as interacting with the guest verbally, but typing it in, which is great. There's going to be other times coming forward. There's going to be an official announcement. So I know I kind of gave something away that one day when I gave that segment. Do you think I should say it, Neil? Let them know that what's coming up, or there's the
yeah, we can. I was just gonna pop in again. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat as well. And Jennifer popped in late, and she made a comment and said, "I am grateful for you, Brent, and thank you for everything you have done. I will always support you regardless of anything." So that's nice.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer and Dan. Like, thanks for your your comment regarding the buble bits and the eggnog, and I know that sometimes some people will send me messages and I don't always respond, or sometimes I just don't have the words of typing out to them of what to say. That's one thing that I've had difficulty verbally. I can say a lot more. Typing out, sometimes I struggle with it. I do the best I can. Yes, I've learned doing advocacy over time. I can't please everybody, and I just try to make life a better place by doing my bit, by bringing people together, bringing guests on, whoever they may be. They have different viewpoints. I mean, heck, I had person on talk about transportation stuff. Well, and that's great. It's all about advocacy. It's about stuff, and then it changes across the country because it's a ripple effect of people who that'll affect their lives in so many ways. And so they'll say, hey, come on to Brent's show. And I've had that happen where another guest will say, yeah, come on to the show. and it was so easy to get the guests on. For a little bit, it was hard to get a few guests on because I realized that they didn't feel comfortable coming on.
Yeah.
Okay. And that kind of gets back to another guest that I recently reached out to.
Peter Julian.
Yeah, there was a time, unfortunately, just things happened, and it shouldn't have happened. And that was the beginning of 2022, around there, later in the month. So I'm reaching out to Peter to get him to come back on the show. You're more than welcome, Peter. Door is open. I sent an email to you. I hope to have you come on. This is 2023. It's a great platform that we're on now.
All the guests and future guests need to know that we've really fixed a lot of the vulnerabilities of the show.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the open mics, as much as they were, fun and really involved the disabled community, that was kind of the Achilles heel, and it kind of, that was the forum that really allowed the bad actors, as we can say, kind of stir up the shit, right? And kind of have that trucker convoy mentality of let's make some havoc, let's stir up the shit and cause problems, and all that kind of narrative, that's where it all kind of percolated, is during the open mic segments. So,
I found them happen later at nighttime, is when the segments would drag on longer, and it seemed like when it was longer, it actually kind of
people got emboldened, and they just they just took the train off the tracks. And again, that was one thing I really was warning you about early on, before Birdie got on the scene, and when she got on the scene, we really were able to rein you in, because it wasn't just me saying it. I had her backing me up too and saying, come on, Brent.
Even said that too, like, right? Stop, turn it off.
So it was me and her really tag teaming and saying, you got to rein in your open mics. And because it wasn't just me now, it was her saying it as well. We were kind of this unified voice saying, rein it in, Brent, rein it in. And you did.
There was other people in the disability community too that kind of helped saying, Brent, like maybe pull it back a bit. And me, I guess I got so intertwined with, having the space going, hey, like, I'm doing a great thing for these people. And unfortunately, things happened, not so good, right?
And this is where, again, my initial comment right at the beginning of the show is, like, my tact or my path from the very beginning was, I got to protect your show. This is your records. This is your vinyl record collection. I'm going to protect it with my life, kind of thing. And so you and the show, and Sonia too, because she's connected to you, you were like always top of mind to me. It was you and the show. And for you always took it in a slightly different tact of, I gotta protect my community of the PWD community that I've built. And so that was where your loyalties were. So your loyalties were a little bit different than mine. I was always laser focused on protecting you and the show, and you were always laser focused on protecting the community that you built. So a little bit different. And I think that's why there was a little bit of problems, because we kind of had the divide of, that I was focused on protecting the show and you were focused on protecting the community.
Yeah, there was a little bit of divide on it, but at the same time, it kind of worked. It still worked. Like
it still worked. Kind of, for the most part, it worked. Yeah, until it didn't.
It was the open mics that really did it in at that point. But open mics are still continuing, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are saying, well, is there open mics? Well, it's a new rebranded open mic that we have via Zoom.
On Zoom now.
And it's a 2-hour segment. I invite anyone who wants to come on to that when we launch it. It'll be broadcasted out when it's on. There's no specific time that or day, like, it's on. Like, we kind of put it out there. Right now, we have it about every 2 weeks. right? Approximately, there might be once every 3 weeks. However, if there are times that I'm available, that I can do a short little Zoom with some individuals, not too many. I'd be on my own Zoom. Otherwise, Neil launches it, and it's a 2-hour segment. I can do it on my own, and I think it's the standard Zoom. It's like 35 minutes or 40 minutes. I can do it, and I'd be willing to do it, but check in with.
The hard cap was an important thing where we decided, like, when we relaunched the show officially back on YouTube, like 100%, where everything was on YouTube, and we just have abandoned the Twitter Spaces. I really hammered to you that all the open mics, we should only have them maybe once every 2 weeks, and they have to be a hard cap limit of 2 hours maximum. Because as soon as you get over the 2-hour maximum, that's when you get off topic, and that's when you get that trucker convoy mentality, and it just goes off the rails. And I said we don't want to have that happen anymore.
Like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, and the next thing it's just too much time. I know for myself, I couldn't sit there for that many hours, and that's why I would take a break in between, thinking that everything was running fine. I know a friend of ours came on, Neil, one day, and one message me popped in. I'm like, oh, okay, and I'm like, oh, great. Didn't really say anything, just there and gone. I'm like, oh, okay. Went to a shift at work. Was doing a double header. We used to call them double headers when we advertised it, but he went to a night shift, and it was just coming on like later on, and just was already on the one shift, and the show was still going, the open mic, and dropped in and said, "You're still here." Oh my God, how long? I go, is it normal? You have these open mics? No, like not this late. So I realized at that time that things were getting out of control, and that's why I'm glad that we're doing it this way now. It's just 2-hour segments. That's it, full stop. I have to learn. The
focus is back on the guest, where we're really emphasizing the talk show part of it, and it got to the point where at some point the open mics had more of a, people put more of a focus on the open mics, and it was like, we don't care about the guests anymore. We just want to bitch and complain on open mics, and but we are getting to almost an hour and a half point. So I didn't know if you just wanted to make some closing comments and wrap up the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna get just an overview here. I just want to make it very clear to everyone that I do take ownership of having open mics that they went too long. And I shouldn't have done that. Like, I should have kept it down to a dull roar. Would it have changed the outlook on the then Twitter Space show, the Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies show, as people knew it as open mic? The guests would come on, and that would be the segment. I don't think. I think that it was a situation that needed to change eventually, and it just escalated it to where it is now, which is a good thing the way it is now, because it actually protects the guest. And the guest, I want to make very clear too, the guest has always been the #1 star on my show.
Yeah.
Right. And the participants are the ones who came to ask the questions and they got the answers from the guest. And that's part of the community that I built, that I thought of way back almost a year and a half ago. I thought about this division, and then I brought it forward. So now it kind of escalated it into where it is now. Yes, it's not the same as having the community interacting with the guest. So as the closing remarks, comments is, I'm going to reveal something to you all, and it's very exciting. So rather than the dropping the bomb on you guys and what happened to me, but going forward now, we know what happened, right? It wasn't all technical. But going forward, I got exciting news. So we'll be probably putting out an official announcement on it, but I'm going to let everyone know that watching this now. So we're going to be having an opportunity for people to call in to the show with the guest soon. I don't know exactly. I'm still working on it, but they're going to have to call in. Yeah, call in.
It'll be old school, right?
Be old school. You'll have to call in.
Yeah.
You have to work out through some technical things when it comes to that, but you're going to be able to call in and ask questions to the guest. So rather than if you're just on YouTube and you can type it in, maybe you still want that feel where I want to be able to ask the question to the guest.
Yeah.
I
think that would be a really cool ad. But again, like when we did the soft launch where we moved everything to YouTube and abandoned the Twitter Spaces, one of the things that I really wanted to emphasize is the guests have always been the star, and when the guest leaves, when the special guest leaves, the show is over. So this is a nice ad where we're going to be involving the audience more, and the audience will actually be able to call in and have their voice on the show and actually be able to speak a question rather than to type a question. We understand that that's the component that's missing, so that'll be nice to have that component kind of back in the show. But having said that, we do have to reemphasize over and over again that the show has always been a talk show. It's always been where the guest is the star of the show. And like I said, as soon as the guest leaves, the show is over. The show
ends. Yeah. The show ends, as soon as it's done.
And having said that, you being the guest, is the show over, Brent?
The show, well, yeah.
Your show right now, is it over?
Yeah, exactly. And the host asking the guest, is it over? My closing comments are to everybody. Let's try to make things a better way in life. I want to mention when I say a better way in life is that let's just try to understand where everybody's coming from in their own way. I'm not pointing fingers saying that people need to agree with everybody on different advocacy stuff, but let's try to understand and like life's too short. Life's too short to be knocking everybody down, right? Just for whatever reason. And I'm not saying have anything nothing to do with Twitter. I'm just in general in life. It's just appreciate things, appreciate everybody around you. I look back and I say, well, what could I have changed in life? Could I have maybe changed things in a different way going forward? No, life's a pattern. Life's a puzzle. Yeah. You can't figure it out. Things happen for reasons. And I knew years ago there was something that I wanted to do, and my thing is passion about advocacy, is bringing people together. And I knew many years ago when I was in college, I had taken a course in it was an exploration course, and they're like, Brent, you're so good with people. And no, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. No, don't put a camera in front of me. God, I was camera shy. I was like, no, Brent, you can do this. So give me an autobiography of yourself. So I did. And I think, wait a minute. So I went to the legislature. I had cameras, TV cameras pointing in front of me, recorded live. I was live on air. Keith Baldry was there. I mean, he'll watch this after. Hey, Keith, I remember you standing at the corner of the room taking notes, and I'm actually broadcasting live. And I was actually on the evening news. I was, It was. And they said, Brent, just be yourself. Be yourself.
Yeah.
I was, and that's how I am now. I'm just myself. If people don't like what I say, then scroll on by on Twitter.
And that's why your show has been a success, is because you're just being yourself and you're being genuine.
Yeah.
And you've really connected with people, and that has to be embraced. There's some people that haven't embraced it, and that's too bad. But again, it's only been like 3 or 4 bad apples that have done that.
It's unfortunate, but the show goes on. And I guess my advice to people is just try to just put that little bit of humor in life sometimes. Or if you don't have humor, if you can't, I mean, for me, it just comes naturally. But if you can just do that one little, like a simple, something nice, to just one word to somebody each day, each person, pick one nice word, how are you? Just, wow, it's amazing on what a simple little word like "How are you?" or I hope you feel better soon, or like it really like simple little things will really pick up a person. Or I'm there for you. Like you reach out, just type something into them, to each your like a tweet or something to somebody. Uh, One little gesture, or like a post, or or maybe not. Depending on your situation, but it doesn't take too much effort just to reach out and just be kind. And it's that's what I've learned in life. It's just try to be as kind as you can and be there for people, because yeah, like it can change. Ending comment, Neil. Today the federal budget came out.
Yeah.
So the 2023 federal budget came out, and well, I guess we all have to hope that there's something in there for Canadians with disabilities. So I don't know, like, Sonia's putting her thumb down. Whoa, okay. Well, I guess that blows that idea. I was gonna say, I hope there's something in there for Canadians with disabilities. I guess not.
Yeah.
Ugh. I was hoping that she would have gave me better news than that. She must have been listening to what I was saying. Thanks, Sonia.
There's
She just told me because I was doing the show.
Siskel and
So
Ebert review.
I was watching the show.
I was doing the show here, right? So I didn't know what's going on. So what we need? Okay, so I guess fast forward to what my comment was going to be. I guess I can erase that comment. What I was going to say now in my mind. What we need to now is we need the DERB, disability. Make sure I get this right, because Bertie is going to say, "Hey, you got that wrong, Brent." Disability Emergency Relief Benefit. I got it right. We need that immediately. Okay, No pussyfooting around here, politicians. Let's get this out. We can do it. It can be done. I know it can be done. I have sources too that told me it can be done. Yeah, who are those sources? Your own colleagues.
Yeah.
Who told me it can be done. Why? Because I've had them on my show. Gee, maybe the ones who are actually going against of not doing it, come on my show. I welcome you to come on as a guest. Let's talk. Let's talk about the reasons why you won't put DERB out to help citizens of Canada just because they're disabled. And I'll say it again. I should record myself. I should record that one little clip. Anyone can be born with a disability. They can develop a disability further in life. And as they get older, they will get more disabilities. So it compounds. So are we supposed to be treated differently because we're citizens of Canada? I mean, come on. Are we better than that? The country definitely can do it. Yes, Canada can do it. And even saying that, respect your citizens within your own country, for God's sake, please. Like, life's too short. Let's get DERB out there to help millions of Canadians, because more people become disabled. I think the stats showed 1.5. That number is growing. It needs to be updated. I'll get Joseph to look into that, and some others.
Yeah.
But that number keeps growing. The caseloads keep growing. How do we pay for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
Guess what? It already pays for itself. What? Brent, oh my God, how do you say that? Okay, we got, and I can probably miss out some of these components before we end the segment. We got EI, we got GIS, we got OAS, we got child tax credits, we got GST. Oh, let's double the GST as a grocery benefit.
We want DERB.
Yeah. One-time payment. Oh, that's going to help a lot. No, we need DERB. We need something to help people across this country. Let's do it. Come on, we can do it. I know we can. It's 2023. Let's make things a lot better, because Canada's going to go into a good recession. We need to help people before we go into that. My mom always said, help people first before you go into a recession or into a depression. I know my mom had taught me a lot when I was a kid. She had gone through the deep depression. Come on, people. It can be done. Thank you so much, everyone. I just want to thank everyone for tuning into the segment today. I know we threw a lot out there. It was a little bit emotional. I actually held back the tears. I had a couple come down. but I did good.
You did well.
I held my kosher, but
I hope everybody liked my metaphors. I feel like I said about 2 or 3 metaphors though. Hope people liked them.
And this wasn't all about bashing people, certain individuals. I just want you to all to understand that comments that are made toward people, even if they're not disability advocates, just people in general, like just think about the ripple effect, how it really impacts them emotionally, physically, mentally.
Yeah.
And yeah, so going forward,
you talked about the government needs to respect its Canadian citizens. Well, we as a PWD community, as a micro community of PWD, we all need to respect each other as well, because there's lots of non-respect that's going on right now, and
there's a lot of infighting going on.
That needs to stop. Yeah,
that needs to stop. Full stop on that. Okay, like there are so many people that are hurting, and and I was going to touch on it, but I'm not going to, because it's all about pointing fingers, and and that's not what this whole segment about is. Any other segment that I put forward, it's not about pointing blame game. If the government was just to do what they're elected to do, is take care of their citizens in the country, we wouldn't have all this infighting and you get to have subsidized housing, or you get to pay market housing, you get to have the Canada Disability Benefit, only if you're up to before 65. After, no, you don't get to have it. And the government's creating all this divide. Stop it. Okay, listen to the citizens, even in your own humor. You wanted people to come as witnesses. Listen to their impact statements. You asked me to come forward. Nobody reached out to me. Hey, Brent, would you like to give an impact statement? Nope.
Yeah.
Why? Because I guess I would tell the truth.
Yeah.
The truth hurts, right?
Yeah.
It's lived experience. But anyway, everyone, I want to thank everyone for coming on. Let's try to make life a better place in Canada. Let's all just do one thing in life, in every day, each and every one of you. Hi, how are you? That's hard.
Yeah. Well said, Brent.
If you see people out there asking for help, please, just if you can, if you got a few dollars, just throw it their way. Whatever, right? If you can do it, if you're in the position of doing it, great. Have yourself a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much. I know I ramble on a lot, so Brent, as a guest, Brent, stop. Okay, Brent, stop. Okay.
It was only going to be an hour, but because you are the host and the guest, I wanted to give you some little bit of leeway.
Yes.
So because you deserve it, because you are the host and the guest all at once, so I have to give you a little bit more leeway than others.
and with joking around, it's I just want people to know that I'm here to listen to anybody who wants to talk, as long as it's concrete discussions of not saying, hey, why would you put a video out there? People are going to listen to it. I might get pushback saying, hey, were you pointing fingers at me? No, I'm not pointing fingers at nobody in general. I just want people just to stop pushing back on everybody.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, right?
You just wanted the truth out there, because up until now, people kind of knew the half-truth. People only knew about the technical foibles of Twitter Spaces, and they were legitimate technical issues, but we only focused on that, and the whole thing about the harassment, we just kind of buried it because you didn't want to talk about it at that time.
Amazing enough, to all the a lot of that, the death threats, really, like it was isolated to a point where it wasn't a lot of calls. They had 3 calls, right? One was a little bit lengthier, not by much, but there was 2 other calls, and it scared me, right? And that's why I didn't even want to talk about it. But I don't know if somebody had just randomly picked out information of stuff that I had posted. Because I remember open mic, I said, hey, who my cell phone provider is, where I live. This is the area. I remember doing a Breaking with Brent segment, put a picture of in front of my building, and it showed my address. So if some clown decided just to kind of pull all this stuff together and make it into a phone call, hey, like, this is who you are, or you were stalking me, like, really? If that was the case, what did you gain out of it? What did you gain out of it? Nothing. Nothing, right?
Yeah.
You know what? My message is to them, Neil. Screw off.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
again, just
Like, stop it.
practice the golden rule. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all, and just learn to shut up. You know.
That's what my mom used to say, Brent. If you got nothing nice to say, he was a next door neighbor, and he wouldn't share. He wouldn't share his boat. He had this neat little boat that he had, and he wouldn't share it with me. And I was just a little kid at the time. He won't share it, and I said, he's just being a jerk, Brent. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And it always stuck in my mind what you're mentioning, that same thing. And I want to share. I always like to share and I've always been that way. And that's what I mean. I want to share my time into that space, bringing people on. And with that being said, thank you everyone for coming on and watching today's segment. I hope it wasn't too emotional hearing what I had to say. I'm okay. I just want everyone to know I'm okay. Sonia's okay. Neil's okay because he's learned more and he knew a little bit of what was going on. Birdie's all right too. She's okay. Everyone's okay around me. I just want everyone else to be okay and understand that we can make things okay. And that's the key word today. Okay. Yeah. Breaking with Brent.
I'm okay. You're okay.
Yeah. The ending segment is breaking with Brent is that everything will be okay.
Yeah.
As long as that's okay. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.